So the intro for this video is going to be quite long, and that is because I have a couple things I want to touch on in this intro about the channel. The gist of this, if you want to skip forward and not listen to all the jargon, is that this build is going to be another dog casket build, and it's essentially only going to be one video. So I have, I believe, one dog casket video already on the channel. I decided to film this one for a couple reasons. The first being that the design's very different. This one's more modern, more contemporary, very simple design. This is really geared towards DIY or someone who wants to make something for their pet or someone else's pet. So the design's different. The other reason is because I'm going to start trying to get plans to go along with my projects. I haven't done them before because I don't love computer work, is one of the reasons, and it's going to be a lot more computer work. But the other reason is because I don't work off of plans myself, so I don't have some sort of hard copy I can transform into plans. So I have to go through now and keep track of all of my dimensions and measurements before I put stuff together. And that's just the way I've worked. I've always worked like that. I work off of photos and images. I build things in my head, and then they come out looking like this. So I usually don't write down dimensions. So that is going to be an added step as well. But I wanted to start doing it because the more popular the channel gets, I get a lot of people in private messages on YouTube asking for dimensions, and I just don't have them. Now, I'm not going to retroactively add dimensions to older projects because 95% of my work is custom projects, and those pieces are no longer with me. They're in other people's homes. So it would be almost logistically impossible to do that. But going forward, I'm going to take a stab at tracking dimensions, writing them down, and making some CAD drawings, hopefully, to accompany these projects. Now, with that said, because of the added workload, I can't justify the process because it cuts into my work time in the shop, and this is a business, without putting a price tag on those plans. So they will cost money, but this isn't some sort of scheme to get you to buy the plans in order to build the projects and the videos. The videos are going to stay the same. Personally, I don't buy plans. I could watch a video, I could glean the information I need from it, and then utilize that information in the shop. I think I've only bought plans like 3 times, and that was just because it was for exact jigs where I needed the dimensions, and it just saved a lot of time versus figuring them out myself. So the videos will stay the same. You can easily, I think at least, I'm not going to hoard the dimensions. I'll still show the dimensions in the videos and whatnot. It's more so they'll accompany people who want to have a set of plans. So also with that said, the 2 casket videos, because I'm doing another one as well. This was a customer project, and while I was making a casket, I decided to make another one because I know someone with an older dog. So to kind of get ahead of things, I made another one as well, and that will be next week. They're 2 completely different styles as well, but these will be free. I find losing pets to be quite a traumatic experience, and I don't want to profit off of anyone's trauma. I don't want someone being nervous about being able to afford plans in order to make a casket. So these 2 will be free, but down the line, if I put shelving plans on there or table plans, those will come with a price tag. So I think that's just about it. Like I said, it's a lot of information, but I wanted to get it in this video. I have to teach myself a computer program in order to do these plans. So heads up, the plans for the 2 caskets will probably not be up when I upload the videos. And that's just an unfortunate timing situation. But as soon as I get them, I'll just add a link to the description, and you can go look at them. So as I said in the intro, this was a customer project, so they sent me the interior dimensions they wanted, and I went from there. I'm using reclaimed pine. If you watched the channel, you saw me do a built-in a couple weeks ago. There was a built-in already in the space made out of knotty pine, and I had to take it out of the space with part of the job, and I saved the pieces. So the lumber for this is really from the 80s, because that's kind of the rough guesstimate I have for when that built-in was put into place. This is just 3/4 inch by a little over 11-inch pieces of pine. If you don't have reclaimed lumber, this is something you could find at Lowe's. So I'm starting with some rough measurements. If you are following along with the plans and you're new to the channel, I build off of photos and I build as I go. So these initial rough measurements, especially on this build, I know for a fact were not the final dimensions. So the plans are going to trump anything you see in the videos because these dimensions will change. But it had to be 30 inches long by 15 inches wide. I had to add the thickness of the pine I'm using, which is going to be 3/4 on either side, which will be 1.5 inches. So in order for my interior dimensions to be what I needed, I had to add 1.5 inches to those dimensions, and those were what I rough cutted out. And for the time being, I'm leaving the width of these pine boards at 11 inches because I hadn't decided at this point how I was going to build the top, so I left it long in case I decided to utilize that extra height. But I'm just cutting down these pieces on the radial arm saw. For this build, especially because it's for DIYers, I tried to use just the table saw and the radial arm saw. If you don't have either of those tools, if you have a quality straight edge gauge, you can use a circular saw or a router to make the majority of these cuts. So it will be a little more time consuming, but it is doable. So then for these, I decided to essentially joint both edges. I don't have a jointer, and like I said, this lumber's a little older, so it's decent quality compared to some of the stuff you find today. So I was able to just rip down either side, and I got it to about 11 inches at this point. Since it's reclaimed, it had a stain on it, and this casket will essentially be cremated once it is put into use. So I had to take that stain off. Now if you want to butt joint these edges, which is what I'm showing you right here, it will be easier to do it this way. It is a possibility. I'm going to bevel my edges to hide the edge grain of the wood. It's just a cleaner joint. So the way I like to cut those bevels is with a tall fence on my table saw. It's super safe because as you cut those end bevels, you lose material and it wants to sink down on the saw. It's a very simple jig. It's just a cradle over my fence with a piece of MDF on its edge screwed to the cradle. So then there's a piece of wood that I clamp to my piece that rides on top of that fence. And like I said, it makes a really, really, really safe cut for something that can be a little bit dangerous, essentially. So like I said, you can see what I'm talking about as you make this cut, that it has a tendency, if you don't have that piece of wood up top holding it in place, to slide down onto the blade and make an inaccurate bevel. So this is just going to be a 45-degree bevel on all my pieces. These boards are a little cupped, so I knew that going into it, but if you buy pine from the store today, it is also going to be cupped. And then that is just what those 45s will look like. And then I zoomed out a little bit so you could get an idea of the process. It's pretty simple. You just clamp everything into place. I cut those bevels on both sides, and they turned out pretty accurate that first go around. Like I said, with the boards being cupped, they weren't perfect. But I wasn't going to plane and joint these down to get rid of that cup. And then I could dry fit this together. I'm using strap clamps on stuff like this. They're invaluable in the shop, just to make sure that everything's square. On certain projects, squareness is going to be essential. On something like this, you can get away with this box not being perfectly square. Obviously, you don't want to shoot for that, but it won't be a deal breaker. So then I'm going to be putting a base in this. I usually use 1/4 inch material, but I don't have any 1/4 inch ply laying around, so I'm using 1/2 inch. It's not going to ruin the piece or anything like that. It will just make it slightly heavier. So I'm putting a 1/2 inch dado on the bottom of my piece. It's going to be a 1/2 inch up from the bottom of the base of the piece. So I'm going to do this on all 4 sides. I know some people have kind of floating panels on the bottom. I like to cut a dado so it nestles in place. It's just a preference. Once again, I'm doing this on the table saw with a dado stack, but you can make dado cuts with the circular saw, which will be very time consuming, but I have done that. But also if you have a router, you can cut dados as well. And that's what all the bottoms will look like. And I made this about 3/8 of an inch thick. So if my base is, the inner piece is 30 by 15, and my dados are 3/8 of an inch deep, I have to add 3/4 of an inch to all those dimensions to account for that dado. I did that, and then I could cut my plywood down. So I'll cut it down to width on the table saw and then cross cut it on the radial arm saw. And then I could dry fit it into my frame. So obviously sometimes the dados don't cut perfectly square. If the corners and edges don't fit, you usually just have to trim down that inner panel a little bit. And then the inside I'm just going to sand to 120 so that once it's glued up I don't have to worry about sanding the inner portions anymore. Just makes life a little bit easier. And then I could glue this up. So it's pretty simple. I'm just going to add glue to all of my beveled ends, add the center panel, and then I'm going to use 3 sets of strap clamps. Now I have the strap clamps with the corner brackets in there. Those ones work the best, but just regular ratchet straps I also use in order to get 3 of these, because I only have one set that has those corner clamps. And then I'm just going to ratchet all of this into place. This is a very simple build. A regular mitered box is essentially the carcass I'm going to be working off for this. You can see the green one on top is just a regular strap clamp. It's not as good as the one with the corner brackets because they add pressure onto those cornered bevels, but strap clamps work as well. And that is just making sure everything's aligned. Like I said, these boards were cupped, so there were little gaps here and there, but nothing that I couldn't clean up with a sander. And then the next day I could come in and take all those clamps off and start finishing up this box. So you could see there was a little bit of gaps on the board that was cupped. And like I keep saying, that is to be expected. But you'll see I sanded the glue down on these. And once I had everything sanded, this is just, I think, 80 grit at this point because I don't final sand until I'm stop moving them around the shop. You could see the top board in the frame. You could tell it has a little bit of a bow to it as well. But once I sand all that down, you'll see that little gap pretty much disappears. And essentially this box is going to end up being cremated with the dog, so I wouldn't stress too much if there's little gaps in your miters. And then I'm just going to make sure that the inside is the dimensions the customer needed, which it is. It's 30 by 15. And then at this point I had decided how to do the top, so I have to trim this down so that the inner dimension is 8 inches. So I marked on the inside 8 inches, and that is 2 inches from the top. I'm doing it this way because now with the base, you can't go all the way to the bottom, but the inner dimension needs to be 8. So I put 2 inches on the side, and then I could cut it down. The only decoration that's going to go on the outside of this are these little V-groove divots on the side, and that's what I'll be doing after I cut the box down. So from the bottom, that's 9 inches I have to cut it to. This is pretty simple math. The base comes up to 1 inch on the bottom. I need it at 8, so I'm cutting it down to 9. Now, if you're making a regular box, if you want to modify these dimensions, if you're making a lidded box, this is how you would do it. You would glue up the box oversized and then cut it like I'm doing here, and then that top portion would turn into your lid, and that's how you get nice fits for boxes. This is going to have a different style box, which is why I'm trimming mine completely off. So in order to cut these 45s, I went 2 inches up from the bottom, 2 inches down from the top, and that's going to be the center. From there, I'm going 3/8 of an inch down, so I marked that on my straight line. That's 3/8 of an inch. And off of that 3/8 of an inch, I drew a 45-degree line using my square. So that is going to be the pencil marks that I'll roughly follow in order to cut these. You can see that's 145, and I can flip it, and that will be the other. I'm going to cut all of these on the table saw by tilting my blade to 45 degrees. I'm going to line up that first cut. You can see it there. The blade is raised to 3/8 of an inch, and then I could just go around the whole perimeter of the box to make that first cut. I'm going to have to make 4 cuts in order to get that indentation. 2 sets of cuts I can make with the fence in one spot, and the other 2 will have to move the fence. So you can see there's my first cut. Now all I'm going to do is flip the box, so now the open side is facing out, and I'll be able to make the top cut as well. Now these are not the same cut. You can see on the bottom I cut the top side of the 45, and by flipping it on this top I'm cutting the bottom side. But once I move the fence, it'll be the exact same thing. I'll cut the top on one side, the bottom on the other, and all I'm doing is just sliding this around. I keep my tall fence on there because obviously this box is taller. It makes for a much safer cut to have the whole backside supported. And then at this point I can move the fence, align it with my next mark, and then slide it all the way through on all sides. At this point, little pieces should be also coming off because I've cut through that 45. You can see there's that cut. I'm flipping it so that the open side is out, and just running it through the piece again. This is actually a very easy way to add detail onto a piece. I've never done a casket like this before, but I actually really liked this design element. It's also nice because you can't put any hardware on the outside of this box because it can't have any metal or anything. So it actually acts as handholds as well, which is quite nice. Now I didn't have my blade set high enough, so I have a little bit of material inside, and I'm just going to use a chisel to remove that. I'd rather have my blade set too low and have to remove this chisel. If the blade is set too high, it'll cut too far into the 45 and you'll have marks. Now this is the finished piece. I really thought this video was only going to be one part, but I have enough material to make 2 parts. Otherwise it would have been over 30 minutes, and I have learned that especially for DIY videos, if it looks like it's initial investment of too much time, people don't like to watch them. So I do like to split it into 2 parts.